Hi, this is Andrea and Brent from SV Happy Jack, and we wanted to just take a moment to do a little video kind of just talking about what we did when we visited Fresh Creek in Andros. We didn't do a lot of videoing while we were there. We just were exploring and adventuring and having fun with some friends that we made, and so we took some photos, but we didn't really do a lot of footage. So we just wanted to take a moment to talk about what we did and the expenditures that entailed.
So we started out by sailing south from Morgan's Bluff. We had a nice sail. It was downwind. It was blowing probably 21 knots, but the sea state was super calm. We had like 1.5 to 2 foot seas. You know, nothing to write home about. We got there super quick. And along the way we did some fishing, and we got Horse-Eye Jack at the wreck of the Potomac, which is a sunken passenger ferry on the reef. It's in 2 separate parts, about a half a mile apart. It's been broken up by hurricanes and whatnot. The shallower wreck had grouper, tons of grouper. And then the deeper wreck, we got the Horse-Eye Jack and a triggerfish.
Giant lobster.
Oh, and a giant lobster. So that was plenty of food, and you know, we still have some of the jack left. Jack is potentially high in mercury because of their diet, and so you know, we eat it in modest quantities, 4-ounce portions over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then that way it doesn't cause any problems.
That's absolutely delicious.
On our way into Fresh Creek, we passed a shipwreck, and it was something Gale.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it's right at the opening to Fresh Creek, and so it's kind of an interesting welcome into the crazy current that is Fresh Creek.
Yes.
We docked at the government dock, and we got there on January 6th, and the dockage per night cost us $6.40 per night.
Yeah. And when we arrived, our friends from the motor yacht, Yes, were already there, and they greeted us at the dock and grabbed our docking lines as we came up, and it was just the smoothest, most awesome docking experience I think we've ever had.
We've never had anybody that we know catch our lines, and especially experienced sailors.
Yes.
And so, you know, having Andrew and Amanda there to greet us, we radioed ahead before we ever even got into Fresh Creek, asked them what the conditions were, the current, what side we should put the fenders out on to tie up. They gave us all that information on the radio, and then we were docked in 4 minutes or less.
Yeah, 4 minutes, and we were tied up, and it was amazing.
Yep, we hung out with them for Dark and Stormies that night, and then we walked down to Andros night.
Yeah, which is kind of like anywhere else in the Bahamas. They usually call it the Friday night fish fry.
Right.
But in Andros at Fresh Creek, they call it Andros night. And we had a really great time there. There was really, really loud, fun music.
Local food,
dancing, local drinks. And it was just a lot of fun. There was all these little booths set up in this park. And each booth sold their own either food or beverages or baked goods, and it was a really fun evening.
We hung out for 3 or 4 hours. We spent $20 total between the two of us,
and we had plenty to eat. We were stuffed.
Yep, we had some drinks, and you can't beat it for $20, 2 people. 4 hours of entertainment. It was definitely worth it. So the next day we unloaded our bikes because we're right on the dock, so another $6.40 in crazy current. You can't beat it. We rode our bikes up to the DMP coffee shop. They make homemade baked pastries and whatnot. We got we got a variety of stuff.
We got some cheesecake that was really, really good.
The cheesecake was the highlight.
Yeah.
And then the coffee was good. It's, you know, it was on par with any, you know, local Starbucks.
Cappuccinos and lattes and whatever kind of coffee you want.
But you don't find that very often in the Bahamas, and so it's
Yeah.
a luxury here that we take for granted back home. And so when you find a little taste of civilization, no offense to the Bohemians, but there's a Starbucks on every corner in the United States.
Yeah.
You can't help but stop and get a little caffeine boost.
Yeah.
So we
It's a
spent
nice treat.
yeah, we spent $21.60 on 2 cappuccinos and a variety of pastries.
Yeah.
Everything was reasonably priced. The owner was fantastic.
Yeah.
Filled us in on all the goings on, and it was almost hard to get out of there. It was very welcoming.
Very welcoming. Yeah.
So we rode our bikes, continued on to the Blue Hole. There is a national park.
Yeah, it's the Blue Hole National Park, and we particularly went to Captain Bill's Blue Hole. There are hundreds of blue holes throughout the park.
Right.
For you to explore and adventure to.
Yeah, there's one that's named after Jacques
Cousteau.
Cousteau.
And it's supposed to be really, really deep.
Yeah, it's on the map, and you got to trek through the woods. We took the kiddie trail with our bikes, and it was fantastic. It was well manicured, and it was like a gravel road, but we didn't have any problems with our bikes, our electric bikes getting there. Andy and Amanda have these awesome fat tire electric bikes, and
go
so
anywhere.
they were leading the pack. And we were taking up the rear with our bikes, and no matter what you have, you would be capable of going. Yeah. It's a little bit of a distance. It took us probably 30 minutes to get there, maybe.
30 minutes.
And funny story is we stopped along the way to get the coffee, and MVS said that they would meet us there. And we were supposed to beat them, but they got there and somehow passed us down the road while we were inside chatting it up and getting coffee.
Yeah.
So it was kind of ironic. I didn't know if they were worried about our well-being when we didn't show up in the middle of the woods.
We left before them because our bikes aren't as fast as their bikes, so we were like, oh, maybe we'll make it there about the same time if we leave before you.
Right.
And then they still beat us there.
We had dinner that night at Hank's, which is basically a dock for small craft. And so the locals launch fishing boats and all that from Hank's, and they offer local fare, catch of the day type of stuff.
Yeah. I think our favorite was the deep fried pork chop that Brent got.
Yes, I got a fried pork chop, and Andrea got some chicken.
Yeah, I got fried chicken.
Fried chicken, and so
I've realized in the Bahamas they really know how to make fried chicken. So if I see it on a menu, it always tempts me.
It was good. It wasn't awesome.
Yeah.
If you're there and you're looking for an easy meal, we would definitely recommend Hank's. But if you're on a budget and you need to conserve, it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
So again, we hung out with the evening with the motor vessel. Yes, they're great company, and really appreciate running into these guys continuously.
Yeah.
Even now we're in
Staniel Key, and we ran into them yesterday here.
Yes,
and that was a lot of fun to just happenstance be walking down an alley and be like, oh, there you are.
A month later, and randomly run into people that you know. So it's great, and we highly appreciate all of the hospitality. Yeah, their boat is amazing, and their dark and stormies are awesome. So on January 8th,
I think we just kind of hung out on January 8th. I don't really know what we did.
Well,
but we went.
We got some rattlers, our favorite drinks.
Yeah.
And
we've been looking for the pink rattlers, but we finally came across the Sands passion fruit rattlers at a liquor store that was just right on the dock, and they were $6.50 for 2.
Yep, that's a pretty decent price.
Yeah.
And that's a little hangout in the evening. People kind of venture that way.
Yeah.
We did projects and some recovery. Andrea hurt her back, and so she was
Yeah.
bedridden for a couple days. So there was a lot of massage gun tooling and a lot of ibuprofen.
You had to heal me.
Yeah, a lot of ibuprofen. So, and then our last day in Fresh Creek.
We went and toured the Androsia Batik Factory, which was a lot of fun. Really, really neat, interesting place. I'm wearing my garment right now from that, and I have a clip. So while we were exploring Fresh Creek, we got the opportunity to tour the Androsia Batik Factory in Andros. It is quite famous from what I've read. Everybody in any of the islands, if you mention the Androsia factory, they know exactly what you're talking about. So at the factory, they make fabrics like this. Everything is handmade. The fabric starts out completely white, and they take some stamps that are made out of foam, and they dip them in hot wax, and then they stamp those onto the fabric. And then once it's dried like that, then they stick the fabric in a vat of dye and dye the fabrics to come up with this beautiful pattern. And they have hundreds of different stamps you can choose from. And then they also make custom stamps if you want to custom order anything. And then they have a sewing room, and they hand make all sorts of different dresses like this. This is more of like a sarong scenario. You can tie it up here, you can tie it around your waist, you can tie it around your neck here. You got options with this little dress I picked out while I was there.
What did that cost?
This cost me $38, which I didn't think was too bad.
100% handmade.
Yeah, for handmade. And it's a serious factory. They've been doing it since 1973. And it was started by the Birch family, and they did it to kind of commemorate the Bahamas becoming their own country, and they wanted to do something that combined their culture and the beauty of nature that surrounded them, and this is what they came up with, and it's been very popular. So you can buy just rolls of this fabric and make your own different things, or they have all sorts of things to choose from: men's button-up dress shirts, little kids' clothes, placemats for your home, you name it, they make it out of this fabric. And everything was just really, really neat.
And they give tours for free, but you can pay to take a class. And the class, they give you like a square yard of fabric to practice on, and then they give you a shirt to make your final product out of.
You can pick your own stamp off of the wall, design your t-shirt. It's $30 to take the class with the t-shirt, comes with it. And they go through the class with you, they dye it all, and then you can come pick up your final product the next day. It's really neat.
Or they'll mail it to you, because depending on the color you want, they'll have to dye it with a lot. Also, you can order a custom stamp ahead of time, but you have to send them the drawing, and it can't be anything copyrighted or trademarked.
So really, really neat. If you happen to be in Andros and you happen to make it to Fresh Creek, I highly recommend going to the Androsia factory. It was really, really neat, educational, and beautiful.
Or we just showed up unannounced, uninvited, and they accommodated us. It was the end of the day. They closed at like 5. We showed up at like 4:30. It was Andrea's first day out of bed, and she could barely move.
I could barely move, but I was determined to go there because it's this famous place, and we were there, and we were leaving the next day, and I didn't want to miss out. It seemed like a really interesting thing to figure out how they do it and the history of it. I'm glad I went. It was painful, but I'm glad I went.
So we walked there in the rain, and also on the way is the tourism bureau, and they give out maps and sightseeing information. They were closed for us, but luckily Yes was able to get there. I believe the day they arrived ahead of us by several hours. And so they were the welcome wagon. They had the maps, and and everything already from the
And
tourism
Andy
industry.
had already ridden his bike around the entire place and knew exactly where everything
4
was.
miles, yeah.
And yeah, he had it on lockdown.
It was great. So what was our total?
So the total we spent in Fresh Creek for the 4 days we were there was $143.10, which amounts to $35.78 per day.
So it was a good place to visit. Not as charming as Morgan's Bluff. We highly enjoyed Morgan's Bluff, primarily because there's nothing there. But Andros town is a lot more, I'm going to call it metropolitan, but that's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But there are things going on to all hours of the night. Loud music.
Yeah, games, dominoes.
People, a ruckus at all hours. And the dock is right by the public generator. That's a diesel Jenny that runs power for the town. Again, it's a wonderful place to stop. But Morgan's Bluff, we kind of got sucked in. Andros town, we were ready to go after 4 or 5 days to get on to the next task. So
one other thing that you did on the last day we were there, I stayed back at the boat, but Brent went and explored a plane wreck.
yes, in the blue holes.
In a blue hole. So that was really neat. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get to go, but I couldn't.
I went out fishing. We were getting low on protein, and so I brought back 2 lionfish. There was a helicline, which is where freshwater and saltwater mix. It gets very murky as the two. They don't combine well, so it creates swirls through the water.
Yeah, it looks very blurry.
Yeah, you'll probably see it on the footage. And so when you're under the helicline, it's nice and clear, and when you're over the helicline, you're nice and clear. But when you go through it, you can't see anything.
Yeah.
And so also there was a thermocline, which is a difference in temperature. It was really cold down below and really hot up top, and that also has the same effect. And so there's 2 different layers, if you see in the video, where it's it's clear, and then it's blurry, and then it's clear, and then it's blurry, and then you're at the surface. And so it's just kind of a funny side note. But yeah, I was able to get out. The day before, we dinghied out there with our friends from Yes. There was all sorts of huge snapper on the wreck.
Yeah.
So I came back alone, geared up with my 7-foot pole spear.
Yeah, do some damage.
Yeah, getting ready to get some snapper on this sunken plane. And there was nothing there. And so we ended up with lionfish. And
Yeah,
so
but we made some really good ceviche out of that lionfish.
we did, and ate it over saltine crackers for lunch the next day. So it was that's actually what we did on January 8th.
Yeah.
When Andrea was bedridden. I got out and
Yeah.
I had to stretch my legs. So
Yeah.
but that's it. That's the recap for Fresh Creek on Andros. We left Fresh Creek on the 9th and headed to the Exumas.
Yeah.
So we'll pick up in a later video. Bye.
Bye.